You know the drill. Twice a year, we all go through that same old ritual, changing our clocks. But what feels like a minor chore has actually sparked a surprisingly intense debate. In this report, we're going to dig into the history, the science, and the huge question at the heart of daylight saving time. Should we just get rid of it, or finally lock our clocks for good?
I mean, it's the question that comes up, well, like clockwork, right? As millions of us stumble through groggy mornings or get bummed out by suddenly dark afternoons, you just have to ask, in this day and age, what is the point? Why are we still doing this? Let's figure it out.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll bust a huge myth about this whole thing. Then we'll get into the tangled history of the time change and look at the very real problems it causes. After that, we'll unpack the two big ideas for the future: sticking with daylight saving time or standard time, and finally, we'll see why we seem to be stuck in this mess.
Okay, first things first. Before we go any further, we have to clear up the single biggest misunderstanding about why we even started doing this. If you were to ask almost anyone, you probably get the same exact answer. Yeah, you hear this all the time, right? The idea that daylight saving time was invented to give farmers an extra hour of sun to work in their fields. I mean, it makes sense on the surface, and it's a story that's been passed down for generations. But the truth? It has absolutely nothing to do with farmers.
In fact, it's the complete opposite. The farming community has been fighting against the time change pretty much from day one. See, their schedules are set by the sun, not by what's on your watch. And this slide says it all. Cows don't care what time it is. They want to be milked at the same time every single day, no matter what we decide to do with our clocks.
Okay, so if the farmers hated it, then who did come up with this thing? Well, the real story is, let's just say it's a bit of a tangled mess, involving war, saving energy, and just total chaos with local time zones.
What's really wild about this history is just how much we've waffled on it. It all started with Germany in World War I trying to save fuel. The US jumped on board in 1918, but get this, it was so unpopular they repealed it just 1 year later. Then it came roaring back during World War II as wartime. It wasn't until 1966 that we got the Uniform Time Act to stop the madness of every town having its own time. We even tried permanent DST once before, back in '74, but that failed after less than a year because people absolutely hated how dark the winter mornings were.
Okay, so that's the history, but what about now? Well, that brings us to the modern debate. And while people are split on what we should do next, almost every expert agrees on one thing. The act of changing the clocks twice a year is just plain bad for us.
And honestly, the evidence against the switch is pretty overwhelming. It completely messes with our internal body clocks, our circadian rhythms. In the days right after we spring forward, studies show these clear spikes in heart attacks, strokes, car accidents, even injuries at work. I mean, think about it. We're basically giving the entire country a massive dose of jet lag, all on the same night.
And we're not talking about some small, tiny effect here. Just look at this number. One major study found that on the Monday after we spring forward, hospitals see a 25% jump in heart attacks compared to a normal Monday. That 1 hour of lost sleep has real and sometimes devastating consequences.
All right, so if pretty much everyone agrees that the switching part is bad, the answer seems obvious, right? Just pick one and stick with it. Well, this is where things get really complicated. This is where the debate truly heats up.
So let's just make sure we're all on the same page about what the two choices actually are. Permanent daylight saving time is what we have in the summer months. It moves an hour of daylight from the morning to the evening, so you get those nice, long, bright evenings. Permanent standard time is what we have in the winter. It lines up better with the sun, giving us more light in the morning. So really, the choice boils down to this. Do you want more light in the evening or more light in the morning?
And this choice, it's created this huge divide. You can almost think of it as a battle between what's good for business and what's good for our bodies. Let's start by looking at the arguments for making daylight saving time permanent.
This quote from the head of the National Golf Course Owners Association, it kind of sums up the pro-DST argument perfectly. The whole idea is that when it's still light out after people get off work or out of school, they go outside, they do things, and they spend money. They play golf, they go to the park, they shop, they eat out. It's all about that recreational daylight.
So yeah, the big arguments for making daylight saving time permanent, they're really about money and lifestyle. Proponents point to an economic boost, more time to be active in the evening, and there are even studies suggesting it could lead to fewer robberies and fewer car accidents in the evening since it's light out for longer. But, and this is a big but,
There's a huge downside to permanent DST. It's the same thing that killed the experiment back in the 70s. As Senator Tom Cotton puts it, it means some winter sunrises would happen at an absurdly late hour. We're talking about parts of the country where the sun wouldn't come up until almost 9 a.m. That means sending kids to the bus stop and people driving to work in total darkness. And that right there brings us to the other side of the debate, the one that's really pushed by sleep scientists and doctors. This sleep specialist, Dr. Emerson Wickwire, explains it perfectly. Standard time is just a better match for our biology. Our bodies are designed to get sunlight in the morning to wake up. Getting too much light late at night throws everything off.
So the case for Team Standard Time is all about health and safety. It syncs up with our natural body clock, which means better sleep and a lower risk for serious problems like obesity and depression. And, of course, it means brighter mornings, which makes that commute to work or school a whole lot safer for everyone.
Okay, so you've heard both sides. What do most Americans actually want? Well, the polls are pretty clear on this. Nearly half of all Americans, 48%, would rather have permanent standard time. Only about a quarter want permanent daylight saving time, and almost nobody wants to keep switching. The message is pretty clear. Lock the clock and lean toward those healthier, brighter mornings.
So wait a minute. If most of us want to stop switching, and there's a clear favorite for which time to pick, why are we still stuck doing this? Well, the answer's all tangled up in a legal roadblock that's been in place for more than 50 years.
Okay, this right here is the key to the whole puzzle. The Uniform Time Act of 1966 basically gives states a choice. They can either do the spring forward, fall back thing with everyone else, or they can opt out and stay on standard time all year long, which is what Arizona and Hawaii do. But here's what they can't do. They can't choose permanent daylight savings time. For that to happen, Congress has to step in and change the federal law.
And believe it or not, Congress has tried to fix this. There was a bill called the Sunshine Protection Act, which would have made daylight saving time permanent for the whole country. It actually passed the Senate pretty easily back in 2022, but then it got to the House of Representatives and just stopped. Lawmakers started hearing more from the sleep experts about the health risks, and the whole thing got stuck.
And this chart just shows you the huge disconnect we're dealing with. Look at this. 19 states have already passed their own laws to move to permanent DST, but those laws are basically meaningless until the federal government gives them the green light. With dozens more states thinking about it, the desire for change is obviously there, but the country is just gridlocked on which direction to go.
And so here we are, left with this really fundamental question. It's a trade-off, isn't it? It's dark mornings versus dark evenings. It's potential economic perks versus proven health risks. And as this debate just keeps ticking on, it really makes you think about what we value most and who should get to make the final call. For now, it looks like we'll just keep on springing forward and falling back.